Right, guys, welcome back to Total Disclosure. My name's Ty, and I am the host and creator of the show. We're going to peel back some layers of reality and expose some truths tonight. I'm really excited. Today, we're diving into the unknown with a guest who's not really just talking about the supernatural. I think he's kind of living it, which is awesome. Our guest is William Camaren, author, public speaker, musician, and the world's foremost authority on the Window Man state. If you've ever wondered if we're trapped in a simulation, if dark forces are pulling the strings, or how ancient biblical prophecies tie in to what I call modern day anomalies, modern day ufology, and timeline shifts and frequency manipulations, all things that we've talked about. Buckle up, guys. William's experiences, challenges, everything that I think I know about time, reality, and just the hidden potential of humanity. So with that being said, let's welcome my friend or new friend, William Camaren. How we doing, brother?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
I am so, again, it's often the conversations that you don't really like. It's okay. I told you this backstage. I've talked to some pretty big people, just talked about the simulation, like Rizwan Verks, a good friend of the show. He's been on Rogan. Avi Loeb's been in here, also been on Rogan. So we've talked about a lot of the things that I just referenced with various guests over the 236 episodes I've done in 4 or 5 years. But no one's ever kind of like structured it all the way together, like the way I kind of feel like you have. So I'm really excited about this conversation. For people who maybe don't know who you are or just being introduced to you, would you mind giving them a little sample?
Sure. Obviously, I'm the author of this book here, Window Man, public speaker, food critic. So there, and you can check me out at Papa Will's reviews on TikTok. I do reviews for food and stuff like that as well. But there's a big story here tonight, something really crazy. And I would say to the audience out there, just open your mind this evening. And the reason I say open your mind is because I believe that the highest form of arrogance that we can have as humans is to believe that because something doesn't exist inside the framework of what we believe, then it can't be possible.
Right. It's this whole notion, like, and I know I use this as like a kind of like have you ever seen $1 Million Cash?
I have never seen that. No.
But you know it exists, right?
I do.
Exactly. So that's an analogy I often use. I know it's kind of crude, but it's that. It's like the concepts, I think people, they understand them. It's like, but they don't. There's something that stops that belief portion, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it's really odd to me. So yeah. And another thing, a lot of people that are like quote unquote conspiracy theorists, why do they tend out being musicians as well? Is it just me, or is every single experiencer like also connected to some sort of art?
Yeah, I think that's true. Maybe it's because just the creative and the spirit that is so creative in people who are outside the box thinkers.
Well, think about the root word, muse, right? What's the muse? The muse is you're pulling from the ether, the oneness, right? If the number of minds in the universe are one, a famous genius, Albert Einstein, Tesla, these really just remarkable people, all telling us that the thoughts, it's almost like the universe is working through them to write the story. They're just a vessel. So I find it odd that, and I bring up that muse connection because musicians, muse, that root word, muse. I find that to be very interesting. And I think a lot of people in the community are coming around to the fact that we're probably not dealing with just space aliens, right? We're dealing with much more complex.
Absolutely.
And from maybe a different reality.
And I do want to say that you mentioned, Einstein and Tesla, and that both of them were thought to be crazy at some point.
very, very crazy. How often is it the time? How often do you hear that like a person is ahead of their time? If Tesla was right, was born now, I mean, I wonder what a person like that could do, right? Given exponential growth in technology and mathematics, and for a guy who was ahead of his time at the beginning, you know, when the light bulbs were just coming on, what could that guy do now?
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, that guy is. I mean, I think we're still, riding his back in a lot of ways on a lot of things that are happening today. I mean, I don't know if how deep you've looked into what he was doing, but there was the time where he had died, and the CIA actually went into his room and recovered some of his stuff.
Yeah, it was
And
actually the FBI.
the FBI, yeah.
It was Donald Trump's great uncle, whatever. Weird,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And
Yeah.
that's what's so crazy about it, because when you look at the adventures of Baron Trump, have you taken a look at that? Yes.
Dude,
That's what I'm talking about.
let's go. We're
Yeah.
opening up on some crazy shit, but yes. I don't know what to say about that. Like, that one got me cooked. I was literally just like, I don't know how to just explain this. But I mean, is it as crazy as people think? I don't know. But
yeah.
For people who might be skeptical, I want to start there.
Mhm.
What undeniable proof from your early experiences convinced you that this wasn't just imagination or coincidence? Maybe you could share a specific story that will get us up to speed.
Sure. Well, I say it like this. I have never been normal. From the time that I was born, there was never any normalcy. At 18 months, I potty trained myself. At 2 years old, I could hold a conversation with you at the level of today's 12-year-old. By 3 years old, I began to see things before they happened, and I could tell people what either had happened or what was going to happen. It was a extrasensory perception, or as we call it, ESP, and that was a precursor to the things that came later. So I lost a connection with that at some point, but when I was 9, that was really where it's.
So you noticed very young that
Mhm.
something was different about you. Did you ever talk to anybody about this, or was it kind of something that you thought maybe all kids could do?
No, there was never any discussion of this. My family knew about it. They knew that I was definitely different. Like I would tell them, hey, our relatives are coming today, and they'd be like, no, they're not coming today. They live in Chico, and we live in Oregon, and they just show up. It was really odd. I would say things like, one that was really interesting one is I told my mother, I said, you need to call your sister. She's been in a car accident. And I'm just a little kid at the time.
I was gonna say, how old?
I'm 3 years old, and I tell her, that she's been in a car accident. And so she gives her a call, and she says, hey, Will said that you were in a car accident. And she goes, no. And my mom, knowing me, and who I was, she said, are you sure? Because he's not ever wrong. If he said something, I believe it. And she goes, oh my God. She goes, I didn't think of it like that. She said, I slammed my finger in the car door, and I've been nursing it all day. I damn near cut it off. It was so bad. And I've had to nurse this thing all day long. And that's how a kid processed car accident.
Accident via car.
Yes.
That's fucking crazy. Here's a trip. Do you think that your actions in the present can affect your past?
Retrocausality, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. It's this is how I explain it in the book, and I think that it's a very good explanation of it. If I go ahead and tie something around my leg, and I try to cut off the blood flow right there, does that only affect my leg and my foot? The truth is no. What happens is the heart is going to start to beat in a different way. You could have a heart attack, you could have a stroke. All of these things can happen because of this thing. So what I'm saying is that when you affect something, it affects the entire line.
So,
hmm
do you think time is linear?
Do I believe time is linear? No, I don't. I believe that it's really cyclical.
Okay. I just wanted to establish that baseline.
Yeah.
Because that's going to lead me, or that's going to lead us, I think. Now, usually when kids are ultra perceptive, ultra, it sounded like your mom was like, okay, something's different, but it's not a bad different. We're not going to put him in like a boarding school, right?
No.
Or we're not going to send him to, yeah. Right. So, but did your teachers, did anyone else ever see this in I kind of like Superman, Superman's always hiding his power.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Were you doing some sort of like that, or would you tone it down in that sense, like in the public, and keep it for home, or were you just like a kid and just went through life?
Well, I did have a few teachers. One Mrs. Hauser. I had some teachers who actually noticed. But as I grew, the funny thing is I feel like this happens with a lot of people who are extraordinary in some way, shape, or form. The thing is that regular school becomes boredom, right? It becomes something that we're not interested in. It's like you're not challenging us.
Challenging, yeah.
At a high enough level. And therefore it's like, I don't even bother with it. I don't, and that was, and that happened. Grades were not like, I wasn't some, 4.0 student or anything like that. And it's just simply because I didn't want to do the work that they were putting in front of me. It just wasn't.
Because it wasn't worth your time.
Yeah. It didn't interest me. Not at all.
And then, that's a really I remember a lot of my friends never understood how I was so articulate and compulsive, very rigid, but then in school, I sucked, right? And they never really understood. And I was just like, it doesn't interest me. The classes that did interest me were the science, the histories, right?
Yes.
And the arts, honestly, because even though I sucked at drawing and painting, it was expressive enough to where it did feel challenging because I couldn't do it. Right? I'm like, I suck at this. Why do I suck? But that really that's such a good explanation. It's it didn't challenge. It's not challenging enough. It's not that the material's too dense. It's that honestly, I don't think school should be set up this way in the first place. Right?
Yeah,
This is not a way to educate.
No, I totally agree with you. In fact, what was really interesting was I remember in 8th grade, they had us take the Constitution.
Oh, yeah.
And I took that test, and for once, for whatever reason, it interested me. And so this kid who wasn't getting very good grades, at all, killed it. I got the highest grade in the school. They called my father in and said he must have cheated.
Oh.
Yeah, that he literally must have cheated on the test. And they said, but we can't explain it because no one else got a higher score.
Right.
So I couldn't have cheated off anyone else.
Someone.
Yeah, I couldn't have cheated off someone.
Because you excelled higher than the person that you cheated, allegedly, right? So, and that's what I mean is school, the way school is, this might not seem or it may seem mundane to someone listening, waiting to talk about UFOs, but actually think about it. What does school actually do for you? What does this break it everything out of, break it all down, right? Break it down to its crude 0-1. It's supposed to get you ready for the life that you'll have, right? The adult life that it's literally programming you for adulthood. That's what it's designed. They openly say it. It's getting you ready for adulthood.
Yeah. And they don't bother to teach you how to do your taxes.
Do your taxes, change a tire, none of it.
None of
but
it.
They do. It's like they teach you every screwdriver that you have to think of. You learn about every screwdriver, how it works. You know every single tool out there, but you don't actually get experience using the tool, right? It's like the engineering should come first.
Yes.
And then the why, right? Then start breaking it down. Why does it act like this? Why is, and maybe I'm getting off on a tangent here, but it really does bother me because they have it all backwards, and it really bothers me.
Yeah, and even the things that they have been teaching that have been helpful, they're starting to cut back on. We're not seeing as much, home economics, a shop, these things that actually help people in the actual world. So
all those classes are memorable to me. You know what's not memorable? Everything
else.
Everything, right? I could tell you my teachers' names because they impacted my life, and I couldn't tell you on a day-to-day what we were doing back then. I remember cumulatively what I've learned from school, but I can't tell you who taught it to me or when. It's a very weird circumstance. But anyway, okay.
You also said, we're not talking about UFOs and things like that. It's like, I really do believe as we get into this that it's going to go a lot deeper than even UFOs.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, all right. We are definitely going to go deep.
Because guess when is it? And I was going somewhere with this, and the audience, I hope, will understand this, but a lot of major UFO cases have had children involved. Why do you think that is? If we look at Rura, Zimbabwe, the aerial school children, right? The Phoenix Lights, a lot of kids were out watching the meteor shower. No, it was the it was the comet, I believe, that was passing. Yeah. There are so many cases that have young people involved. And typically they come back and say, we need to be careful with technology. And it's a common theme. So, I often wonder, is it because children are not children, and I guess we're saying anyone from 1 to 18, right? I'd classify that as a child.
Yeah.
So is it because we're not fully indoctrinated into the world of black and white that seemingly we've been taught exists, right? That everything's a yes or a no, black or white.
Yeah. Children are on a different level than adults, very clearly. Children haven't had all the exposure to the things that we've had exposure to. And so these children they see a different side of things, and they are attacked at an early age. And I'll tell you the reason that they're attacked at an early age. They're attacked at an early age because they want them to stop and not find out what's truly in them. And I can explain that to you too. There is something that is very deep, something that children have a connection to, that as they grow, they lose that connection. But if they can stay in that vein, then these kids can become something.
And maybe those are the ones that do stay in that lane. Again, I'm leading here. Okay. I had my first experience with a UFO at age 12. It set me on this path. So again, does your future affect the past? Does the past inform the future? And it's funny to me because it started, I saw a craft dead as day, right? It's probably noon, and this giant disc object flies right over my head, right over my house at treetop level, oscillating, moving forward. If there was words on this thing, I could have read them to you, but there were none. There were no rivets, no seams. There was no rotor wash. I grew up next to a military base. I come from a military family.
Mhm.
9/11 happened,
Mhm.
right? We were on the East Coast. I'm here in Boston. They were scrambling jets constantly over me that day. Like, I knew what flew and what didn't. And this thing should not have flown. How low and slow it was. And then, I asked my mother what I saw. She told me a UFO. She brought me to the library. She gave me some books on UFOs. She never told me that I didn't see what I saw. She
Yeah.
let me explore the idea that we didn't understand everything. And I think just by that action alone, she made me more curious than 99% of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a different take on UFOs. I have a different take on paranormal. I have a bunch of different things. And I do believe that what we see is part of something that is going to probably blow some minds right here. Yeah, so I'm fine with going ahead and throwing this out here. But we know that Elon Musk has said that there's only like something like a 1 in a billion chance that we live in anything other than a simulation. I'm telling you flat out through experience that I'm not speculating when I say we live in a simulation 100%. And I can absolutely.
How first off, many questions here. Let's start with the most basic one.
Yes.
How could you know that we are in a simulation?
Okay, because through what I do, have seen multiple different versions of reality. And what it is that I do is simply exploiting a glitch. So I am exploiting a glitch in our reality that allows me to see the other various codes. So and I will take the time to go ahead and explain that even biblically. I'm okay with doing that. So if you look in the word, it says that when he knit us together in our mother's womb, right? Now, if you look in the Strong's Concordance, the word for womb is actually Rekim. Now, Rekim translates directly to matrix. And I find it really interesting that we call this place Mother Earth.
Right.
So,
right. Even though we're consistently talking about the Heavenly Father, right? Why is Earth the mother?
Yes.
Okay, and listen, like I really want to get into this. What you say it's a simulation, right?
Yes.
The next logical question was, if you know it's a simulation, who is doing the simulating?
Okay, the simulation was designed to keep us from ever finding out who we are. Okay, that is the fallen ones that I talk about in the darker force. It's the darker forces, the fallen ones, and they were present during the writing of the code. These ones are able to move through the code, and they control everything. And later on, I'll explain to you how it was that when I stepped onto the world stage with a gifting that I have, that it was shut down completely, that I wasn't able to do what it was I wanted to do, that I simply wasn't, strong enough, that they have far more power, that they've been doing it much longer.
Who's they though?
That is the fallen ones. And I'll explain that.
Are these like fallen angels? Is that what we refer to as fallen angels?
Yes.
The Nephilim.
The Nephilim come from the fallen angels. They're different. They were when they bred with humans. Then they created the Nephilim. However, the fallen angels, if you look, there's 200 fallen angels. And I'm going to tell you this, that they could not stand against one fully awakened, child of God. They could not stand against him. They never could. And you can tell that there are 200 of them because there are 200 giant craters in the earth. And this was their entry points. One of them's still on fire.
What?
Yes.
What? Okay.
Mhm.
So I've had guys like Rizwan Virk on here talking about the
Mhm.
simulation hypothesis. I
Mhm.
think the audience is pretty familiar with the concept.
Yeah.
However, you're linking this to a much bigger, much, something much larger.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
so what modern day modern day ufology, what we call space aliens and the grays, and if this is a simulation,
Hmm.
who are they other simulated beings like we are, or are they a glitch, or are they, is that like a cheat code that got sent down to us like a care package in Grand Theft Auto? Like, what are we working with here?
Okay. They put this out here to set up the final plan. Okay. So what they do is they put these UFOs, they put these things out there because it's part of what we're going to call the Great Deception. Okay. The Great Deception is going to be when fallen angels come and say they are aliens and they say that they created us. That's how we get deceived. So that was been part of the plan from the very beginning. It was we set up these things to look like, UFOs and this and that, and then when we actually come and say we're aliens and that we created you, then they do away with God. That was the
Ooh. So I'm really struggling here because I guess what
plan.
how many how, where where did you go that allowed you to become authoritatively saying these
Mm-hmm.
things, like, uh, you call it the window man, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
a looking
Yeah.
into another piece of code, another reality, another simulation, another this. What is that state like? And how did you get to where you are now of speaking
Mm-hmm.
authoritatively on that?
It's an emotionless state. It's a really strange state. When you're in there, you feel nothing. That state is incredibly different state than we live in right now. You feel absolutely nothing. There's a story I'll tell you about all of that. But I have since grown the gift to where I could literally not only traverse time itself, but actually step into other realities, see things that where there's no veil. See, we have a veil here, and I want to say this. I want to say that we are not kind of screwed in this case. We have drawn the short straw 100%. This reality is so veiled, and it tells so many lies. When you really look at it, a human maybe understands 5, 0.5% of everything that is taking place, everything that's going on. So if you realize that you don't know even 1% of everything that's gone on, and then you have to think of all the indoctrination, how much of what you thought was true isn't true, right?
Okay.
Then you look at it and you go, wow, I don't really know anything. And that's a great starting point, is for us to look at it and go, you know what, we don't know anything. We truly don't know anything. Let's let's absorb and let's listen to the people who are telling us that maybe there's some stuff that we don't understand.
So then my question becomes, if this is some sort of simulation, isn't this like, what would that change to on an everyday life? Like, this lighter for me is
Hmm.
still a lighter, right? It still lights the cigarette that I shouldn't be smoking, right?
Yes.
My steak still tastes like steak. My bills are still coming due. So I guess my point being is, like, I've always thought, okay, what do they say in with like the Bible? Is like, God said, "Let there be light." Then we have this idea of the Big Bang. Everything starts from this Big Bang of nothing. Everything out of smaller than the, head of a needle, becomes everything. You know what that also sounds like?
What?
Your computer turning on. Bink, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't surprise me that maybe we're all saying the same thing through different language, right? So what we call UFOs today, that was our ancestors' gods. That was the angels, the demons. By definition, they're non-human intelligence, right?
Yes.
And if we go by that logic, humanity's been being visited by something that isn't us.
Yes.
For a long, long, long time.
Yes. Yes.
Now, whether time is cyclical, but what's your thought on that?
Okay. Yes, you're 100% right on that, and my perspective on that is that it is the fallen ones. I also want to say that I think this is a really poignant thing. When I tell you that we live in a matrix, when I tell you this and people go, oh, okay, well, how could that fit in with Jesus? And how can that fit in with what he's done? And how do these things that you say occurred actually occur? Well, let me go ahead and explain all of that. Number one, Jesus was showing us that he could rewrite code. That's what he was showing us. It was like when he said, no, that's not water, that's wine.
Oh, shit. I see where you're going.
He rewrote the code. When he said, okay, that water that you think I would fall through is solid. I'm going to walk on it. He was rewriting the code. So in every situation, he's just rewriting the code. You see what I mean here?
Yes, I do. So, okay, and again, many dismiss simulation theory as like science fiction, but you're connecting it to the Bible.
Yes, and I can also connect it in a different way. When you ask me, hey, Will, how are you able to, traverse time? That doesn't make sense to me, right? It doesn't say it in the word that you could do that. And
prophets seem to transcend time.
Yes. And I'm saying, so what I'm saying to you is that it's absolutely plausible. It's absolutely possible. What he even said was, for example, let me show you this. This is the best way. Okay. John in Revelation, he clearly saw the future. He saw helicopters. He saw all kinds of things. He saw the future. Now, was he present in the future? We don't know whether he was present or it was a vision, right? However, Jesus himself was, he was present with Moses and Elijah. Do you remember this?
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, how could that be if he's not transcending time, if he's not doing something different? It's like and right after that in the scripture, what is really cool is he says, you will do greater things than I do, because I'm going to be with the Father. So he literally said, you're unlimited.
Whoa. And, I bring this up for a reason, but have you ever seen that? I forget where it's from, but I grabbed a picture of it. There's like this cave, the hieroglyphics, and it looks like it's depicting planes, helicopters, and honestly, UFOs. So again, it's like people took the time to carve what they were seeing into rock. And it's very peculiar that they knew. It's almost like they knew that the only thing that can withstand like a true great reset is the stone, right? Anything in stone seems to be able to hold up pretty well no matter what. So carving these things into stone, I feel like it meant something. We take it for granted, like it's us putting our modern lens on it, right? And we're seeing what we want to see. But I don't know. I think our ancestors were tapped into something.
Absolutely.
But okay, back to that. So specific verses or stories, that's what I like. So like the Garden of Eden, the flood, or Revelation. How do they mimic or mirror simulation mechanics and frequency binders and supernatural gifts?
Oh wow, that's funny that you say frequency binders. I'm definitely going to go off on that in a minute because I definitely have some frequency binders that I talk about, and how to actually elevate your frequency to a certain level so that you can understand what your gift is, and having, what we call a Christ consciousness. We'll definitely talk about that. As for, I'd probably need to look specifically into the story of Noah and the flood and all of that to give specifics on that one. But I do believe this, as far as that goes. I believe, and I hesitate to say believe because for me it's a truth. Okay. There is what we call a firmament. Okay. The firmament separates the water from above from the water below. Okay, that's it clearly. I mean, if you look at biblical cosmology, it explains it. Okay, so when that happened, it was simply an opening in the firmament that allowed the flood to happen, because the water above flooded so fast. There was no, and it flooded above mountains, and it killed everything. And one of the things that were taken out were the Nephilim.
Yes.
Now, yes, and the Nephilim were also the reason why we see, things like pyramids, stuff like this, right? The reason we see that is we could never move those stones.
You can't convince me. I can't be convinced, man, that fucking slaves made them. I just can't. The one stone, like one of those stones, those
yeah, it's
just unfathomable to have that amount of. It's logically doesn't make sense that they used wet sand and rollers, and then that, like, mind, not to mention, right, how long that would take, literally. But we'd have a hard time. We probably couldn't do that today. That make them as pure. And the pyramids that were from later, why are they all so shittier? How does that make any sense? It makes, like, the bent pyramid, all these pyramids that came after the Great Pyramids, they're all terrible. But like, you got the step pyramids in South America, the Great Pyramid, obviously, like the astronomical, they are just far too perfect. And again, with that in mind, so the Nephilim help create these things. And yes, I guess maybe the why I would have a question about the why. Why were the Nephilim, why were we creating these things? Are they just monuments, or was the pyramid something that was some sort of like chemical plant? Was it power plant or some sort? Because I can say honestly that I haven't studied enough on that, I would say that I would be speculating to say exactly why. I couldn't say why, but I can say that there are, if you've got guys that are 35 feet tall moving stones, our cranes today can't do this thing. Yeah. And again, and I think almost all of the ancient texts talk about giants in some form or fashion. So we found bones that look like they're giants, bones of the giants. So, I don't think it's such a leap. So if this is a simulation, if the fallen angel ones are the ones who created the Nephilim, was the flood a way of is that actually just a reset from the simulator? Absolutely. Yeah, that was getting rid of them. That was what they were doing. No doubt. Damn. You know how dark that is? That's dark. The whole earth to wipe out, to essentially reset the experiment. That takes people, that's going to be hard for people to, because they think God, they think is righteous and he loves us. Why would someone who loves us let this stuff happen to us? That is always been
the big question. You know, there's so many people ask, why is a loving God going to allow this thing to happen? The truth is, I don't know. It would literally be like trying to explain the inner workings of a television to an ant. I'm not capable of understanding why God does what God does.
Right. Does the Bible or any ancient text warn about darker aspects of this reality, like manipulation by external forces? How has your interpretation evolved throughout your own experience?
Certainly there are passages that do talk about these things, and I want to say that there are passages that have been removed. We know that there are multiple things. They didn't show you all of the stuff that came out of the book of Enoch. They didn't show you all of the stuff that, in, like you said, Nicaea, and removing things. There were a lot of things that were removed, and actually the book of Mary Magdalene was showing us something that they didn't want us to know as well, and that's about the 33 vertebrae. I don't know if you know much about this, but they call that the sacred ladder. Some people call it Joseph's ladder. Yeah, and the Kundalini energy actually moves through it as you raise your frequency. When you raise your frequency to the highest level, you get to this Atlas vertebrae. When you get to the Atlas vertebrae, you can actually force the Kundalini energy into the pineal gland, and it decalcifies it, and then it wakes up your spiritual gifts. And this is, or your supernatural gifts, as we like to say. So this is something that people don't understand.
So everyone has this possible untapped potential?
Absolutely. Every single person has this untapped potential, and they're all different. Like, I couldn't say that like somebody would be able to do the things that I do. It's like your thing is completely different than my thing, probably. So I'm not saying that it might be the same. I doubt it, but everybody has something in them. And once you break into that, you can unlock it. And like I said, there's a bunch of things that they've set in place to make sure that you never unlock those.
That's this darker side, the suppression of these. Because think about if we all were evolved to our fullest potential, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't that sound like utopia? But yet we still have these external forces. Clearly seems to be actual evil, right? Like if we look at the deep state
100%.
Or the people, these ancient families, these ancient bloodlines that seem to be pulling the strings behind the scenes, or at least to the degree that they can. So are they tapped into what you're tapped into, and they're using it for not the betterment of humanity, but the suppression of these very basic things?
Everything. Yeah, this is what they do. These ones are connected to the darker forces, and like you talk about the Orsinis, and these different 13 families, that all this kind of stuff. These ones are connected to that. And I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there too, and this is something that I think is probably interesting for the listeners, but the whole reptilian line is a real thing. 100%.
Physical being?
Yes, they are. There is a reptilian line, absolutely 100% descended from the garden, descended from
the serpent.
Yeah, the serpent. Absolutely.
Get the fuck out of here.
100%.
That are living on Earth.
Yes, that are living on Earth, and there are places that are unknown to us where they actually live. They bury themselves, and then they come out and they take human form, and that's
so they can also shapeshift.
Absolutely, 100%.
And again, maybe this is redundant, but shapeshifting, again, would that just be rewriting your code?
Yeah.
Essentially,
that's really what it is. This is so beautiful how it all ties in, right? You just look at it and you go, okay, yeah, it's just they've learned to rewrite that code.
They've tapped into the very matrix to rewrite. Yeah. So again, these prophets, these people that you speak about, like Jesus or Yeshua, it's crazy that, how many Christians are there? And 90% of them don't know the real name of Jesus. But
Yes.
so like Yeshua, all these people that seem to be larger than life actually were, if they were able to rewrite the code, the very reality around them.
Yeah, 100%. That's what they were able to do. They're like, Jesus was able to do that, and he showed that, or Yeshua, he was able to do that. That was 100% something he could do. I just say Jesus so people understand.
Cool. Yeah, but okay, so I mean, for believers, how can integrating the ideas that we've talked about so far, how can it strengthen people's faith rather than actually challenge it by inherent nature?
Well, I think this is at least going to provoke a thought process where people look at it and they go, wait a minute, like maybe I'm not seeing things the way that it's written. And clearly, I mean, I've shown over multiple things that it's like we're not necessarily interpreting it the way that it was. And if you interpret it the way it was written, then you understand that Jesus all along was showing that we had the ability to rewrite the code, that we were special, that we are far more powerful than we ever thought. And if we learn to step into what he actually said and what he was actually showing us, then we tap into that unlimited power.
Oof, that's heavy. Yeah. So, okay, let's get technical. You spoke about these. What exactly are frequency binders, and how do they function within the window man state?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I can tell you the window man state is a little separate from the frequency binders, but I will explain the frequency binders that we see them on the everyday basis. They're everywhere. Number one and number two that I'm going to talk about are things you'll see immediately. And you'll go, okay, yeah, I get it. When I talk about the third one, that one's going to blow minds, and it's actually going to cause people to feel a certain way. But the thing about it is, it's like, I don't really care, how bad I hurt feelings. The truth of the matter is I'm telling the truth. Okay. So the first one is if you have a 40-hour week job. Okay. Your 40-hour week job binds you in the sense that it's like, you're working for somebody that you don't really want to work for. You don't really enjoy this. You're only looking forward to your evenings and your weekends. So it keeps you from ever looking inside. It keeps you from ever doing anything that you should do to raise your frequency. They've set that in place. And the reason they set that in place was because it's like, you can't live if you don't do this thing, Well,
what's the mechanism that sets you up for that?
What do you mean the mechanism sets me up for it?
To be a 9 to 5. It's these, it's what is it? We talked about it at the beginning of the show. It's school.
Oh, yes.
School designs you
they
for
set
the
you
9 to, yes. So you see where the through line is?
Yes, you are correct. I get what you're saying now. Yes, you are correct. That's how they do it.
It is the mechanism that has you, and then not to mention that's created these societal collective truths that you have to go to college, that you have to have a family set by 35, you have to own your home, all these society norms that are built into these unrealistic expectations at this moment. It may have worked 30 years ago for my dad and my grandfather. That same technique, those techniques, you can't have a single working family and own a home. It doesn't work. The math ain't mathin'.
You are 100% correct.
So
absolutely.
I think a lot of people are starting to wake up to the idea because they're starting to see how broken the fucking system is.
You're right.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, okay, what's the next one?
Second one that binds you is your screens. So they keep you locked into your television. your computer, and your phone especially. We're spending time doom scrolling or doing whatever we're doing, taking that little hit of dopamine that we get from somebody liking a post or whatever, and it's binding us. It's never allowing us to actually focus inward. And so that one is, I feel like everybody's going to look at that and go, oh yeah, dude, do you know how much time I spend doing that instead of doing what I should be doing and looking inward? So yeah, that one is, gosh, I feel like that's just like a...
This episode of Total Disclosure is brought to you by Good Feels Cannabis Seltzers. And I'll be honest, this is one of my favorite partners that we've ever had on the show. As I've given up alcohol, I'm very open about this on the show, and I think a lot more people choosing that same path. So if you're looking for something that can truly replace alcohol in any setting, whether you're unwinding after a long day of research, hosting friends, or just want to stay clear-headed and in control, Good Feels delivers a completely different kind of experience. It starts with their 12-ounce stubby bottles of cannabis-infused seltzers. They're crisp, clean, zero sugar, and 0 calories. And they're designed to give you a smooth, fast-acting, elevated feeling without the crash, without the hangover, and without the downsides of alcohol. And if you're more than an at-home mixologist, Good Feels also has fast-acting beverage enhancers. You can add them to literally anything. Sparkling water, mocktails, whatever you like, and create your own customized experience. This isn't about checking out, it's about tuning in, staying present, and upgrading the way that you kick back and relax. And right now, listeners of Total Disclosure get 20% off their order. That's getgoodfeels.com for 20% off exclusive to this audience. Good Feels Cannabis Seltzers. Replace the alcohol, keep the experience, stay in control. Now back to the show. Definitely, for sure. And now, these are all low frequency, very low frequency things that put you into this like almost like non-NPC state if we're talking simulation. Okay.
And also, before I even get into the third one, I want to explain to you that there are NPCs. That there are people that don't even exist, have a soul. Yes, these people don't have a soul. These people are just here as part of the program, and these people will not be able to respond to you in a certain way. Like, so it's interesting. Like you give them a very specific topic and they just kind of nod their head. They won't be able to respond to something very deep. These people are NPCs.
I think we've all met these types of people, but we just automatically assume that they're just there's no politically correct way of saying this, but that they're just like,
I was gonna say stupid. I'm with you.
Right?
Yeah.
But I honestly think, because I've had conversations with people, or anyone listening or watching can relate to this. You've met someone that you just say, how the fuck did they get through a day?
Yes.
Like, how did they make it 24 hours without like getting hit by a bus? Like, the elevator just doesn't go to the top floor. And again, like, it makes you question. But I think there are the player characters that also can fall into these low vibrational states that almost mimic an NPC to a degree.
Yeah, there are,
right?
Some that are wakeable, but they're just at a very low frequency. And those that are,
they just watch porn all day and play video games, right? And then like, you're like, oh God, such wasted potential, right?
Yes, 100%.
So, all right.
Now let's go into this one. This one's gonna hurt some feelings, and like I said, I really can't care about that. Porn. One of the hugest frequency binders that we have are animals, and specifically, okay, and chief amongst these animals are dogs.
You're gonna say dogs, and no one's gonna like you anymore.
It's 100% true, but the one thing that I will say is that I will not just say something and not back it up. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and back that up in a bunch of different ways. Okay. First of all, a dog's bark puts off a frequency that lowers your own. Okay. That is something that happens. If you have multiple dogs, it's even worse on all of these scales. Okay. Because there's not just one scale here. There's a ton of them. Number two, dogs have a smell. Now, their smell is, even if you go nose blind to it, your olfactory sense is picking it up and it's lowering your frequency. When you sit on your couch and you get hair on your clothes because the dog has put, hair on your couch, and now it's like you got to take a lint roller to yourself. You're in a place of like anger and frustration, and you go outside, you step in a landmine. Okay, that frustrates you, right? And now you're in that place of anger and frustration. If you say, hey, you know what, I'm good about it, I pick up all the dog crap. It's okay. Now you're spending your life picking up dog crap, which is also, anger and frustration. And then you say, hey, I want to go somewhere. If I want to go somewhere, now I have to find somebody to take care of my dog. Now, if you have multiple dogs, it's even worse because nobody wants to take care of multiple dogs. So now either you don't go on your trip, you don't raise your frequency on a time you should be raising it because you're not going, or you pay a bunch of money to have somebody take care of your dog, and now that takes away from your trip, or you take the dog on your trip and it's lowering you in a time when your frequency should be raising. So this is happens. I know that that's a really, really rough thing. I'll also back it up biblically and say that there's never a scripture in the Bible that ever talks about like dogs being good. In fact, it compares them to murderers and idolaters and all of these different things over and over and over again. We never see a scripture in there where Jesus says, excuse me, Peter, I need to feed my dog. It's like, so this is something that, if yeah, go ahead.
As much as I hate what you're saying, and honest, anyone watching me knows, I mean, my dog is my fucking everything.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He saved my life. And I it's hard for me to hear what you're saying. And
yes,
but as a dog owner, I will concede to the fact that yes, I do get a little bit frustrated when there's hair all over the bed, when there's hair all over. Like I will admit that you are hitting on some points. Yes. Yeah. So while I don't necessarily agree, I do hear and understand what you're saying.
And, I appreciate that. And I also want to say this, like, just to be fair, because I'm not, completely unfair. There are some seeing eye dogs that go out there and, help people. And there are, there's bloodhounds that, find, missing people. There's canines who go and protect, officers in the line of duty. There's different things. And even my own father was damn near going to drown one day. And he had cramped up out in the middle of the lake, and his dog swam out and he put his pinky around the collar and it swam him back to shore. So I'm going to say that, yes, there are some heroic things. There are some good things. But generally speaking, they were not meant to be in every home across America.
They also weren't really meant to be. They weren't really meant to be. They were the wolves that men domesticated because they created this. And like, I don't want to spend too much time on this because, again, it's really alienating. People get upset when you talk about their pet.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
But we did domesticate wolves and create dogs. Like, they weren't actually. Now, whether you could say that that's fate, destiny, it was always going to happen because it always does happen. You can argue one to many things on all of this. But we did create, like, the wolves crept up on us on our fires. And then, we would throw like our leftovers, they would eat them. So then they'd follow humans. And then, then we found a use for them. They could be our biological sensors, in the night. So then we kept them around and we fed them. Again, it goes down this whole rabbit hole. I won't. So again, I don't think you're not crazy for saying that. Because again, dogs weren't supposed to actually really exist. We created them. Next.
Yeah. I will honestly say this last thing, to be honest with you. It like, you're almost better off coming out and saying you're homophobic, racist, anti-Semitic, whatever, than saying that you
anti-dog is a hard stance for everybody.
That is a really hard stance. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, but and that's why I prefaced it the way that I prefaced it. It definitely needed.
I did not have that on my bingo card if I was going to be a betting man. So let's talk about some of the external forces. This can include tech, EMF, societal structures, that act as negative frequency binders, trapping people in lower states. How can we identify and break free from them?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Wow, it's very difficult because these things have been completely integrated into our society. You know, this is what we deal with every day. So honestly, like, seclusion is huge. I would say also doing, you can put on frequencies in your home. You can do that. There's one called the God frequency. There's a ton of different frequencies. There's healing frequencies. There's things that raise your frequency, and you can put that on in your home while you're just doing dishes or whatever it is you're doing, and that will elevate. Obviously prayer, meditation, these kinds of things definitely help you to break free of some of these things that you're talking about. But those things are absolutely a part of the world, and it's really hard to avoid them sometimes.
Yeah, so I guess it's limiting your exposure to them.
Yes, limiting the exposure. Absolutely.
As best you can in a world that has become kind of, and again, do you think these things are put here to keep us dampened?
Oh, yes, of course. The entire system is set up for you to fail. Everything that they do is stopping you from actually reaching that Christ consciousness that I was talking about. If you can reach that is where you can actually access the gift, and you access the gift, and they don't want that. So certainly there are certain things that they do to keep you from doing that. Like, I was talking to Bobby Washington not too long ago on Strange Darkness Radio, and what he had was an experience when he was 9 years old where he started to see the paranormal. And 9 is a specific number, just like,
going back to like sacred geometry.
Yes, Nikola Tesla said if you understood the power of 369, you'd basically run the universe.
Hey, you want to know what my birthday is?
What is it?
9/3.
That means you're special. I can tell that right away.
My birthday is March 6th, 1993.
And there's a reason that you're doing, podcasts and you're exposing things, and that's
And my mom's death date is 4. So
really,
yeah, and her death. So my UFO sighting. This is like probably people listening to the show are going to be like, "What the fuck? I don't want to hear this story again." But I think it's maybe you can help me shed some light on this. So at a very young age, I have my UFO experience. I already told you about it, right? But my mom was a big part of that, right? Because she was the one who asked me to stay home from school that day. She would do this every once in a while because she was a stay-at-home mom. Mm-hmm. At the time she had 3 kids going on 4. And so I'm not at school that day. This is pre cell phone, internet, all this shit. I see the craft. I run in, I tell her. She doesn't say I saw God or an angel. She says you saw a UFO. I say, what the fuck is a UFO? Without the language, of course. She tells me that we don't understand everything in the world. And, she's like, I begged her to go to the library. So she set me on this path, right? And then I got off the path. I became a big drinker, very, very much. I'm an alcoholic and an addict at heart. I'll never stop being one. She was with me through it all. And, I can say I'm 6 years without a drink or drug, and she got to see a little bit of that, a couple of years of that, and that is my greatest success in this world, if anything. But
It's awesome.
on her death day, I was in the room with her, sober. I've been sober for a couple of years at that point. 2021. I got sober in 2019. So I'm in the room, and I'm way off my path at this point. Way off my path. The only thing that brings me back to the path is her. She's sick. And this is during COVID. The world kind of shut down. The only thing I could focus on was her. Right? So I'm in the room, and she takes her last breath, and I don't want to get too into it because I don't want to bog down the whole show. It is about you and your experiences. But when someone's alive and when someone's dead.
Yeah.
Right? I'm in the room. I look at her. She's alive. I look down, and my phone buzzes in my pocket. And this is with milliseconds, right? And in my head, I go, no matter what the fuck, whoever that is, I'm not going there. But I remember looking down at my pants, and when I looked up, and again, this is happening in microseconds, milliseconds. This is quick thought. By the time I raise my head, this orb of light passes by my field of view, hooks an L out the window, and disappears because I'm colorblind. So it was outside. I could no longer see it. I look back at my mom, and she's gone.
Wow.
That day, Total Disclosure was born, and I said I will never stop looking for the answers for what I just experienced.
Well, that makes perfect sense. I don't know if you know this or not, but do you know that the body loses something like 3 ounces of weight at the exact moment of death?
Yes.
And people believe that is the soul exiting. So the fact that you saw it is really awesome.
Yeah. And I didn't talk about it for a long time because everything I did, everything I was doing up until that point, I dropped it all. It was like her last way of showing me, hey, idiot, get back on the right path, the path you're supposed to be on.
Yeah.
And here I am talking to you.
That's awesome. I love it. I love this, that we get to, share these stories and that we get to.
So what do you think consciousness is?
Oh, gosh. That's a broad thought there. What is consciousness? It's, I would say, when you look at it, it's from the moment that we're, put into this place, we have obviously consciousness. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by what is consciousness. Explain your idea, and I will be more than happy to go off of that.
Okay, so what I would believe consciousness. So I'll use an analogy to make it a little bit easier. What I believe consciousness is, it's inside us as player characters, right? There's no reason for me to believe non-player characters always have what we have. That's spark. Again, I spoke about, how you know when someone's there, when someone's not there? There's a clear difference, right?
Yes.
Whatever leaves is clearly them at the core. So for me, when I think of consciousness, I don't think the brain produces consciousness. I think the brain is the receiver, and consciousness is a signal that's coming. It's like we're all dialed to our own frequency, if you will. You're 92.1, I'm 92.4, right? Like something like that. And so you can break the body, you can break the radio, but the signal will always exist, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So whatever consciousness is, I think it's our link to the muse, or what they call the muse. It's to the oneness, to God, whatever makes us unique, special, individual. That's what consciousness is.
It's like I feel like the brain is literally the alien captain of our ship, you know. That's really how I feel like it is. And we have all of these, you know, all of these things. I was asked this not too long ago. Somebody asked me how, you know, it was that we hear certain things, and these certain voices are, you know, whether is that thing an inner monologue, or is that something being pumped in?
Yeah, I
You
was
know
gonna say,
what I
you
mean?
know, some people don't even have that.
Yes, some people do not
That's
have an inner monologue.
that's crazy to me to think about.
I have thought the same exact thing about that.
Like, imagine not having a voice in your head. Like, that's got to be who a serial killer is,
100%.
right?
How do you not have an inner monologue? I don't
Dude,
understand that.
I fight with myself constantly.
Yes.
Constantly.
Do you know, sometimes like this is something I've said before on multiple things, but it's like I have about 1,000 thoughts per second. And you just a little while ago were talking about like drinking, and that was something for you. It's something for me as well. I have done it to keep down the flood of thoughts, because they go so crazy that sometimes it's really hard for me to stop the thoughts. Like, whereas some people might be processing, like, you know, 3 or 4 thoughts in a short period of time, I'm processing thousands.
That's why I drank.
Yeah.
That's why I drank, is to slow. I have such a high frequency mind. Like, I'm like you. I have thousands. I am going.
Yeah.
And that's why I drank. It took me a long time, but to not just admit it, but to like see it. But that was clearly why I drank. This was to burden myself of the anxiety and the amount of activity that my brain cycles through.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
some of the greatest minds, you know, in our history, you know, Hemingway, all these different people, they drank. Why did they? Probably the same reason we're drinking, you know?
Why do you think they call them spirits?
Yeah, that's right.
Because they fucking possess you.
They absolutely do. 100%.
Getting to my next question, what are demons? If there are angels, are there demons?
Well, there are demons. When I say the fallen ones, right? The fallen ones are what we would consider demons at this point. You know, it's like they fell from grace, and now they're in opposition to.
Okay, so then they can influence us.
Absolutely.
Or are they influencing us? I would say yes.
100% all the time, you know, in everything you do. I mean, you know, you see, I've seen a picture, was really interesting. I saw a picture. It was a kind of a drawing, but it was this woman sitting next to this man, and when she was sitting next to this man, there was this demon creature sitting in the center, and it was like he was causing a lustful interaction between them. And that's what I'm talking about. Every single day, everything that you're doing, there is something happening where they are trying to influence you 100%.
Do you think that, because if the Bible is right, will there be an end of time? An end of times, like actual like apocalypse?
Yes, and I think we're very close. Yeah, we are very close. Very, very close. This is it. It's not like it used to be. People in the 40s and the 50s, you know, back there, oh, we're at the end, you know. It's like, no, this is 100, and you can actually count it when you look at it. I'm not sure of the numbers right now, but you can count it, and we are right there at where you know, we have these like 2,000-year intersections. And this is happening. We're right there, and you can see it all around us. You can see all the biblical prophecies starting to come true, where, you know, rivers are running dry, and when we have blood rivers and all of these things, and there's, you know, multiple places where
that are fucking on fire.
Oh yes, 100%. That's what we're doing.
Down, storms like we've never seen before.
Earthquakes.
Coastlines, earthquakes, tsunamis caused by earthquakes. Like, It is so biblical. In biblical texts, they've spoke about this thing called the Antichrist.
Mhm.
Do you believe that that is coming?
Oh yeah, and I won't say honestly who I think is the Antichrist right now.
You
And
think there's an Antichrist right now on Earth?
yes, 100%, and it's happening. We're very close. We're so close. Um, they're already building the temple that was talked about. It's sacrificing. The sacred cow or whatever. All these things
Yeah,
that they're
the red
doing.
heifers.
Yeah, the red heifers. Yeah. So we're very close. It's happening. There's no question about it. It's like we are right at the end. I do believe that many people living right now absolutely 100% will experience the end. And the end is not just, all the biblical stuff like happening. It's also the one, and it's the one awakening. So one will awaken soon. When that happens, I don't know exactly how close it is, but when one awakens, that one will have the ability to rewrite the code and we'll fix it. And I know that sounds like, the Matrix and all of this. But there's a reason for that. There's a reason it sounds like the Matrix and all this, because they have to put certain things in front of you. That's part of the satanic religion, is that they have to tell you everything in advance. If they don't tell you everything in advance, then in the end, they can't go, well, I told you. So this is how they do it. They put it out through movies. They put it out through all kinds of things. And they show you, even with my case, right? In the Window Man, they were showing you that was going on. They showed it during the butterfly effect. This is exactly what they've been showing all along.
So it's all just been right in front of our eyes.
Yeah. They tell you everything. Every single thing, so that
down to like the Epstein shit, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You can, like, they've been talking about this for a long time. This idea of like billionaire creeps that like do weird shit, and like the normal world, like they see themselves as above it to some degree, because like when you have unlimited resource, like going on a trip to Hawaii stops being a luxury. It becomes the norm. So what do you do then? Right? I think you start looking for other outlets. And that's when you get into the dark shit.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I think there's a reason that it's obviously like billionaires, because billionaires, right? They're at that level where like you can't give a billionaire a gift unless it's like sentimental in some way. Like you can't buy anything for them that's going to mean anything, because they can do whatever they want. They can go anywhere they want on their private jet. It's like the regular world stops being probably interesting, and then they go seeking and they find dark black magic and these weird fucking cults that practice, and I don't, I don't know if you want to go down that road, but
no, I'm fine with that road. We can go down that road totally. When you look at, I believe it's Dan Bilzerian or whatever, he was saying that like if somebody came up and gave me a Ferrari, it really wouldn't mean anything. I'd be like, oh, thank you. But it doesn't mean anything. There's no more 10 highs. It's like we're not hitting the level 10 anymore. It's like, it's just the way it is. So now we start looking for different things. Some people said that that was the case with George Michael, that he had slept with so many women that at some point he said, I just want something different. It was like, I'm always looking for something different, and that's kind of that. Yeah. And so a lot of times people go to the darkness to find something they haven't seen.
Right. And honestly, like half of me goes, I kind of understand. Like I kind of understand it. Like not the kid shit, not that, but I can understand, like when you have all the money and resource in the world, like I can't imagine too much brings happiness to you anymore. And for the people that are billionaires and do find happiness, like real happiness, those are the people, right? Those are the good ones. But like far too many cases, it's not that way.
Oh yeah.
And this Epstein thing, I think, is just confirmed a lot of the conspiracies that involved like the most powerful people in the public facing sector. Right? Because I think it's the people that we don't know that are really running the world. If you're running a blackmail operation and you're targeting the president of the United States, who's arguably the most powerful man public facing, if you're the guy blackmailing that guy, who are you working for? Right? Who's behind that? That's who's really running shit. And that's who's. Do you think that they have some sort of pact with this non-human intelligence, whatever it is, that they can go around doing these things? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, 100% I do. And honestly, I won't go, completely in the direction of, anti-Semitism. I don't want to do that because I know how, but I do believe that there's some evil forces in that direction as well. So I just want to put that out there, but I won't say it, outright.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, if we do look at the Jewish people who were originally the chosen, they rejected the chosen, being the chosen people.
Yeah, they certainly did.
So it's hard for people to fathom, but it's very clear that the Jewish people rejected the idea of what Jesus was saying.
Oh yeah, they rejected the Son of God 100%.
So, again, not super crazy to me. And I think these are things that we need to look at and we need to explore. We don't need to go attacking anybody, but I do think that while I don't think we should take the Bible at face value, I don't think we should just throw out the baby with the bathwater.
You're right. 100%.
Right? All right. Yes. So you talk about this thing called the empty timeline, or interacting with different versions of yourself, possessing the same gift.
Yes.
Can you explain the empty timeline? Is it like a void between realities, like limbo?
Sure. There are multiple versions of you. There's not just one version of you. In fact, there's multiple versions of you even on this timeline. One way that I'll explain it is like this. We are the microcosm of the macrocosm. And so when you really look at it, it's like you haven't even got online with me yet in some area. We're already finished in another. It's like every millisecond there is a different version of you. Like that, and the thing is what I do when I learned to step into places was that I learned to put myself back into that place. When I learned to put myself back into that place by connecting senses, what I did was commandeered a different vehicle on the line. So it was like I was just taking over for another, version of me. And if you learn to do that, obviously I have some different things that I'm able to do that others aren't able to do, but you can conceivably step into a different place and take over. And the empty timeline, you wanted to hear about that. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you about that. So the empty timeline is a place where there's nothing. It's essentially just plant life. That's it. And there's no birds, no squirrels, no dogs, no people, nothing. And I can step onto this stage essentially, and I have an ability to communicate with other versions of me. So, and by the way, they're all different, which is really cool. Some are like older, some are younger. It's like every version of me is not the same as me, but they're similar in some way, and they can all teach me something.
That's quite. Well, you've mentioned interacting with alternate versions of yourself who share this same gift, right? So, what are these encounters like? Collaborative, conflicting? I mean, it has to be something that takes time getting used to.
God, yes. The first time interacting with myself was really difficult. I was blown away by that. And I've seen different versions of myself, honestly, that are doing much better than me in life. And that's hard too. So, but each of them teaches me something new. In fact, the whole thing about dogs, that was something that was taught to me by the one I call number two. He was there. We each of us have numbers. And so that's the way that we interact with each other, is by calling on the number, which is very strange, I know. But
Well, if you're all Will Camaren, then
mhm.
yeah, that would seem logical to do it by number or some other means.
I will
Okay.
also say though that there are a couple versions of me that are not named the same, and then it's really interesting, and that's just based on the fact that like different circumstances happened. So there's one that's named Richard, like my grandfather.
But
Yeah,
Richard Camaren?
yeah, he's still Cameron,
Okay.
but you know, different first name. So it's really interesting to like interact with all the different versions and learn the different things that I've learned from them, because they teach me so much. And in fact, if you know anything about like the way that they come after you, okay, and if you say anything that people
Who's they again?
I will put this out there. The darker force, the demonic force, the one that tries to shut everybody down. And I'm going to go ahead and say this: you can see it in people like Max Laughlin. Are you familiar with him?
No.
Max Laughlin was a 13-year-old child that came out and said there are different dimensions. There are all these different things that are going on. I can produce free energy. And he started going to shows, big shows. And all of a sudden, he just stopped showing up. And then he was just like pushed out. Like, I'm not saying they killed him, they didn't kill him, but there's a point where they threaten you.
Yeah, they come this
Mm.
whatever you want to call it, the men in black, the deep state, they come and they just remind you of, you know, that you could fall down the very, very high window or fall out of a very high window and no one would think twice, like that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, they threaten you, and all of a sudden he just stopped. Now, there's certain things that they do along the path. The first thing is, which I think they're going to do with me, and that's fine. Go ahead and do this with me if you'd like. They call you crazy, and then they debunk your story by, you know, saying things like they did about Danny Goler, who was a guy who came out and said, "Look, I can see the code of the Matrix."
I know Danny very well.
There you go. You know,
I was going to talk to you about DMT actually, if we can go there after.
sure, yeah. And
Okay.
and by the way, I want to say that the DMT being involved in the study doesn't detract from the power of the story. The fact of the matter is when you're on a hallucinogenic drug, you see multiple different things. You don't you don't see the same thing, right? So if you've got like multiple people, 100 people, and they're all taking this stuff, right? It's not like we're all going to see the same.
Oh, no. Yeah, anyone who ever taken a psychedelic knows that you do not. There's no such thing as a shared experience like that. Like when it comes to hallucinogenics specifically, you can't. There's no. It doesn't work that way. And so for everyone to be seeing some variation of this code through this diffracted laser setup, because I've reached out to Danny, I want to do it. I've done DMT several times. I've experienced another plane of existence. I just don't know what to think about it because I haven't been able to repeat it.
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly, you got 100 people, and he goes through with this, like you said, the diffracted NM65 laser, whatever, and he shows like this is what we're looking at, and all the people see the same thing. It's like, why are you all seeing the same thing? It's like you're seeing the same thing because that's reality. And then they come and they try to, you know, debunk him and say it's all BS and all this here. But the fact is, it's not. He's 100% correct. He's seeing it. He's seeing the code.
Exactly. And again, I think it's dangerous for whoever doesn't want that out there. Do you think certain drugs, like certain things like DMT, they do bring you to a higher vibration?
Yeah, of course. DMT is released in the brain at the moment of death.
Death.
And so yes, it definitely does that. There's no question. So it's like an artificial pushing of your frequency. And so yeah, absolutely. No, 100%.
When I did it, I shot out of my head into, like, I felt myself leave my physical body, and then I was just on this road, not road, it's not really the right term for it, but I was just, and I was surrounded by all these different colors. Colors I'd never seen before, because I'm colorblind. I could see every color, but very vibrantly. And then there was this being. And I was walking, making my way towards this being who was hooded. It wasn't like a machine elf like other people describe. When I looked at its face, by the time when I got to it, there was no face. It was just a hooded figure. There was a blackness about the features. There was nothing there, but I could sense that it was confused as to why I was there. And it was kind of like it was worried that I was there. And then I remember being kind of like offended and being like, who are you to judge me? And then I took a couple steps past the being, and then boom, snapped back into my body. And I don't know, dude. I went somewhere else.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
And you can encounter all sorts of things. You can encounter good and evil. DMT is a really, really intense thing that allows you to see beyond the veil.
It makes mushrooms and acid look like baby stuff. Right? I mean, because I've known guys that have been like, heavy acid users, and then they try DMT and they freak out. Like they freak out. And because people don't realize that it is, by the time you take your mouth away and breathe in, you're exhaling and you're already there. Then hours go by, and then you find out that it was only like 11 minutes, and you're like, what? And that again brings me back to this whole time is definitely not linear.
I've actually had experiences like that with shrooms too. But yeah, DMT is much, much stronger. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the graduate level, right? Anyway, so do you think there are substances that can bring you closer to these abilities?
Sure.
Is that maybe what we're getting to?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, when you really look at it, I say God, he put everything here for a reason.
Yeah, acid being the exception, nothing that we're talking about isn't naturally occurring. Like shrooms and DMT, these are natural things.
100%. Those are things that he put here. And so, whether we choose to use them or we don't, it's like he put those here, and these are things that we can, experience. And
do you think that is why the government or governments and religion have tried to suppress the use? Because think about if everyone microdosed mushrooms one day and just got that like euphoria, everyone would be running around like hugging each other, right? they can't have that.
No, we can't have that. We can't have people loving each other.
No, didn't.
Better to push things like alcohol.
Yeah. The thing that possesses you. So again, that this war between the light and the dark, right? So we're in a simulation.
Yes.
But the simulation is being rendered to the degree that there is a many worlds aspect to it. So there's an infinite amount of simulations occurring at once?
Yes, absolutely. So there's multiple codes. There are multiple simulations going on, and this is what I've been able to understand as I move through simulations. I've seen multiple different simulations. I've seen things where things aren't veiled like they are here, where we understand that certain actors even like play other actors, and it's crazy. You don't like, and
Wait, what?
that's normal. It's normal.
What does
Where
that mean?
like for example, it's well known in certain places and on different timelines that that Brad Pitt actually plays Benicio del Toro, and you can see it if you ever look at it. Just bring up some pictures of him, and you can see it. It's something very normal to other timelines, but not normal to this one. That people don't understand that certain actors play other actors.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little confused.
Okay, explain.
Because like actors play actors all the time,
Yeah.
right?
Well, no,
like in like films, an actor will play like an older actor that they're doing a biopic about. Is that what we're talking about? Or are
no,
we talking about something different?
no. I'm talking about that Benicio del Toro doesn't actually exist.
What?
Yeah, I'm telling you that Brad Pitt plays Benicio del Toro on the big stage, and I'm not even joking about it.
Clip that. What are you telling me right now? So you're telling me that
Yeah.
there are actors that just don't exist.
Yeah, there's actors that don't exist at all, and they're just another actor playing another actor.
It's like
And,
it's like a pen name for like Stephen King.
yeah, he's got his pen name. You've got Garth Brooks. He does the Chris Gaines. It's the same thing.
Bro, what the fuck?
So we're exposing some truth today.
So, wait. All right. I think I get it. Why? Is this just like because again, did you see this whole Jim Carrey thing?
Yeah.
Okay, you know that this was like a guy who made a mask.
Wait, yes.
It's confirmed, right? Like the guy that did it came out and said, "Hey, this is what I did." It was like Jim was in on it. They wanted to do this to people. Do you think that Jim Carrey might be like telling people what's actually going on?
Jim Carrey has been doing that for quite some time.
Quite some time now.
Yes. The all mocking tongue and all of these things that, yes, he has been doing that for some time.
Shows up on the red carpet and says, "I just wanted to come to the most like preposterous." And then he's like, "What is it again that we're here for?" And they're like, "Actors celebrating actors." He's like, "Yep, I'm at the right place. Like, I'm at the most ridiculous." So then this most recent thing happens, and like Jim Carrey shows up at this award ceremony, doesn't look a thing like Jim Carrey, close enough where people were like fighting about it. Turns out the conspiracy people were right. It wasn't Jim Carrey. He wasn't cloned, but he was essentially cloned with a mask, and but people saw through it, and some people didn't. Is the point?
Yeah.
Some people just said, "Nope, that's Jim Carrey. What are you talking about?" So my point being, there are clearly people who you could show them all the evidence in the world. They're just not going to see it because they don't want to.
That's right. Yeah, you're 100% right. That's exactly what they do. They're not going to ever look into it, and they're not ever going to see it. And there's so many things that I see, and I literally go, how can people not see it? And it's frustrating at times to go, I see
Have we gone to space?
No, absolutely not. That's okay. First of all, let's just be honest. Okay, there's no
Don't hit me with flat Earth.
There's no way we could have went through the Van Allen wall. That there you would have needed like 10 feet of steel to go through that radiation belt. There's no way that could have actually happened, and they did it in this little tin can. Let's also explain how there was already something filming. What did they do? Like they ejected a pod, it landed, and that pod started shooting. It's not true. Then you look in the background, there's no stars. Why are there no stars? Because they knew damn well that people would have been able to say, look, that's not in the right place. Okay. The flag is waving in like vacuous space. Like there's wind. Like, come on. Like, I mean, everything that you see is BS. There's no way that it's true at all.
But do you think space is real?
No.
Like, because I guess what I'm getting at, maybe, because if we're in some sort of simulation, how big is the simulation? Is it our galaxy? Is it the known universe?
No, the simulation exists inside of what we have right here. And listen, I tell you in the beginning, and I know you say don't hit me with flat Earth, but the fact of the matter is that there is a dome, there is a firmament that's keeping the water from above, from the water below. This is like, if you look at the stars, they're just luminaries. That's what they are. They're not in the idea that this thing is like that. There's this space and we're spinning at all these, at this ridiculous speed. It's nonsense. When you really think about it, I'm gonna break something down for you really cool. NASA, for example. NASA is really just an anagram for Satan, right? Except it's missing the T, right? And this is why they say T minus when they count down. If you look on the logo, it's a snake's tongue.
Well, T minus is just time minus.
I know that. I get that. That's what they've told you, right? Okay. But reality is like if we minus the T, right? So, and you look at the forked tongue on the logo, it's really showing you that the whole thing was evil from the very beginning. So, yeah, I don't believe that NASA is telling us anything close to the truth. And we see these rocket ships. I saw this not too long ago. There was a rocket sent up, and when the rocket, it was like a home rocket or whatever. It wasn't like one of these rockets they send from NASA, but it was sent up and it had a camera on it. And when it got to the top, it hit something and it stopped. It just stopped moving. And even Elon Musk has said things about, we can't break the firmament. And he made it seem like it was a joke. But the fact is that we haven't, and
so again, are they just telling us what you said earlier? They have to tell us to some degree.
Yeah, they have to tell us. This is the reason why Hillary Clinton gets on TV and goes, we still haven't shattered that highest glass ceiling. She said it about 15 times on TV. So it's she says it over and over and over again because they have to put it in your face. If they don't put it in your face, then they can't say that they did, that they told you. They did,
Wow. Bro. Oh, gosh. So for protection, what tools or mindsets do you recommend to shield against certain things and try to live without some sort of fear? Is meditation, like, do you have any?
It's hard because we're navigating a war zone every day. Everything is designed to stop you from ever understanding who you are. So what I would say is to honestly put on frequencies in your home while you're alone. I would say meditate. I would say pray. I would say always try to find the moments of solitude.
Can I tell you something? So again, I have a lot of anxiety. I told you before the show, I don't necessarily believe in the God that everyone else does.
Yeah.
But I got to the point, as a sober person dealing with anxiety, there's not too many things like I can't take a pill. And I decided, okay, instead of like taking a pill, why don't I try to quote unquote pray and say, you know, if I'm having a really bad panic episode, right? Like I literally get to a dark place or a place where I'm by myself. I drop to the knees and I do the whole thing and I ask for the anxiety to stop. Whether it's a placebo or not, it's working. And it's kind of blowing my mind.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
I don't know what else to say about it. It's working. I am highly skeptical of that kind of thing. And it's working.
I love it.
It makes no sense to me.
Because the truth is that sometimes the truth doesn't make sense. It's hard. It's hard to understand. And there's so many of us that go through the same things. We go through these phases where we don't, understand what it is that, is going on in our lives. We don't understand whether, this is God or this isn't God. But I love the fact that you're at least stepping in and saying, look, I want to see what this is. I want to see if that's actually correct.
I'm open to anything, it's like, I'm open to it. It's, my mom brought us to church and then we left and she said, do you want to go back? And we said, no. We were kids. We were naive. We didn't want to go sit there, right? We wanted to run around. So I never got to do the whole church thing. Not saying that that's the only way you can become spiritual. Clearly, that's not the case here.
No.
But as we wind out here, there was something that you included in your set of topics, which not many people send, which I really like that you sent over. But you said number 1 and number 8 had to stay locked into last and first, respectively. So I want to address something that I normally actually wouldn't. The shocking shooting of Charlie Kirk at the Utah Valley University on September 10th, 2025. From your perspective, in the Windowman state, was this a random act or was this something that was orchestrated within the simulation?
Absolutely orchestrated. And I'm going to take you into some really deep water here. This is going to get...
I got my floaties on.
Yeah, it's going to get hairy. Okay, so here's the thing. At the end of my book, Windowman, I had decided that I wasn't sure whether I wanted to ever do this again because I had been attacked on multiple levels over and over again to the point where they were trying to kill me at every turn. Time acts like an entity and it tries to kill you. Then I literally had something happen where I couldn't fathom it. I didn't like it. I was so frustrated by it. And that was the shooting of Charlie Kirk. And I said, you know what? This is something that I can possibly fix. I can step onto the world stage for the first time because I'd only been dealing with my own life. But I was like, I'll step onto the stage and I will try to fix this. I will see if I can stop it from happening.
Whoa.
Yes. And so I step onto the stage and
Wait, hold on. Are you saying you knew about the shooting before it happened?
No. What I'm saying is that in my time, I saw it happen and then said, I'm going to rewind time and see if I can fix it. And that this is what I've been able to do. I've been able to step out of time. And so I decided I'm going to try to fix it. And when I stepped onto the stage, I felt the darker force for the first time. This was something that like completely suppressed everything that I tried to do. It suppressed my ability to like stop, pause. And if you actually like read the whole Windowman book, you find that like there's a multitude of things that I can do to, change things. And I have on a few occasions. This was not something I could do. I was stopped at every turn. I couldn't even do things in the natural. I couldn't make phone calls. I couldn't do like I was blocked. And at one point I was literally stopped physically. Like I could not even step forward. It was really crazy. So what I decided to do was the only thing that I knew how to do, and that was to write a book. Okay. So I figured if I write a book and the book comes out before this thing happens, that he would know. And I pushed and I pushed and I pushed to get it out as soon as I could possibly get it out. Unfortunately, it only released one day before he was killed.
No.
Yes, September 9th. And it was called The Shooting of Charlie Kirk. And I released it under a pen name. And the pen name was Anastasia J. Casey. Now, I never wanted anybody to ever know about this. This was not something that I ever thought I would tell. But things changed. I got kind of pissed at some things that I'd seen in the way that they had stopped me from ever being able to, put this out there. And so, but one thing I had encoded was this. Anastasia, right? The first name is the same first two letters as my son Antonio, right? Casey is the same first two letters as my son Carmine and also my last name Camaren. I put it out so that it in this way so that at least my people around me would know what I was doing if I wanted to tell them about it in the future. But the funny thing about it is that they scrubbed it completely from the internet. Now, why do you scrub something from the internet? There's no reason for it. If you look at it in this perspective, they try to call it AI slop. Now, AI slop can make money, can it? There's no reason it can't. It could still make money. And if people want to buy it, they can buy it. But not in this case. They destroyed it. They completely removed it from the internet. Why? It's because they didn't want people to know. Then they tried to say later that it was released 2 days after, which also doesn't make sense. If it's released 2 days after, explain that to me, because my book Window Man was 5 days in the Amazon process as a finished product to be put, up. So explain to me how a book gets written and then put up that fast. It's impossible. So what I'm saying to you is that they scrubbed it for a reason. They didn't want people to know. And I found a copy later online, and I noticed that they had made changes to what was written. And the changes they kind of pissed me off too, because it was like they said he was shot and then the paramedics ran up. And when the paramedics ran up, they applied pressure to his neck and they were running IVs and all of these things, which we know are not true.
No, yeah. It's a security team.
Yeah, none of that is true. That's not how that happened. So why did they say it? They said it to credit it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you that with the gift that I have, I stepped out of time. I wrote that in hopes to actually be able to save his life if there was nothing more that I could do. Everything around me was binding me. It had held me down to a point where there was nothing I could do. So the only thing I could do was that. And
you couldn't make a video and send it to him?
There was nothing I could do. Anything I tried to do was blocked. I'm talking about everything. And even in the sense that there was a part of there was a place in time where I couldn't even move. They wouldn't allow me to step forward. I could feel it. And I kept looking around me on
Does that scare you that someone can control you like that?
Oh, yeah, that's incredibly scary. I was looking around on the Orem campus. I'm looking around and I'm trying to see if there's someone around me that's holding me down, somebody that gives me that feeling, something where I'm like, what is this? And I couldn't see anyone because I really felt like proximity mattered, but it didn't. It was there was something controlling me from well beyond where I was at. It was, it was somebody who was, like I said, a writer of the code.
Yeah. And we know that they I'm not saying that what you're saying is 100% the truth. There's no way I can know this. We do know that there are these weapons, directed energy weapons, these you know, the skull, like the God, voice of God, these lasers that if you walk into the laser, you can hear sound. We know that they have these things. And if those are the things that we know that they have, what don't we know? Right?
100%. That is exactly right. You hit it right on the nail head.
And do you think that like these black magic thing, do you think this all like magic, this idea of it being able to influence the world around us, is this just another way of, or another misrepresentation of technology and rewriting code? Because like, okay, you said Jesus turns water into wine.
Yes.
He rewrites the code. We think of it as like magic, supernatural ability, when in reality, he's just rewriting the code. So is the dark arts and stuff like that, is that just the same thing?
Yeah, to a certain degree.
And shit like that?
Yes, they are perverting some of the same things, and they're using them to do it in a dark way. But the truth is they understand far more than we do, right? So it's like Jesus was showing us how to rewrite code, and what they're doing is perverting the ability to do something different to cause problems, which is, it makes perfect sense when you think about it. If you think about what the enemy would try to do.
That's insanity. Do you think that the modern UFO narrative with like the whistleblowers and the congressional hearings, and is this all smoke and mirrors?
Yeah, I believe that the whole thing is simply to put you in a place where you're prepared. You're prepared for this thing. You're prepared for what they're going to do, Project Bluebeam or whatever it is. And now they come down with their alien forces, and they say that we are, created by them, and run away from the thought of God. And that's what they do. The idea is to deceive us. It's the great deception. They're going to deceive us in the end. And the deception is that there are aliens, and the aliens are, the ones who created us.
Interesting. I would love to do a follow-up episode with you. This is because I think there's so much we can get into, like moments in time, like Pearl Harbor, 9/11, these moments that change the trajectory of the human race ultimately, right? Are these moments in time is there something as like the time police, or some sort of like, if you're doing this solo, is there like an agency that's out there that's like trying to fix time? And is that what the Mandela effect is? Or, I have so many other questions.
We can totally do a follow-up. Yeah, Mandela effects, things like that. We look at movies like The Adjustment Bureau. We look at different things like that. There are so many things that are telling us exactly what's going on. And yes, Mandela effects are 100% real. There is no question about that. They are
deja vu, and
this is the blurring of timelines, and it's happening for a reason. You can't tell me with anything that there was never a cornucopia in the Fruit of Loom.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's like such a specific thing too. A cornucopia.
It was there. We know.
Look at like the Marvel movies, right?
Yeah.
Everything that you're talking about, like, is in that. And what were the, like, because people like to think it's you said it's media. Now people forget, but before movies and TV, people had books and comic books and stuff like that. That was what everyone was reading, comic books, and in the 40s and 50s, and everyone was reading them. So the ideas that get slipped, these larger ideas about the multiverse, right, are variant selves. This is all stuff that's been talked about in the Marvel universe, right?
Yeah.
In the DC universe, these interacting, and then guess what the next Avengers movie is? Doomsday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the following title, Secret Wars. I mean, I'm not saying everything you're saying is correct, right? I talk to guests. I let them tell me. I try to Art Bell it the best I can. Channel my inner Art Bell. And I give you 2 hours and I buy into everything, right?
Yeah.
Because I am open to everything.
Awesome.
But it is weird that all that, like the Operation Mockingbird, we know that the CIA, we know that the media has been concocted to a certain degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
Close Encounters, J. Allen Hynek was an advisor. So J. Allen Hynek worked for Project Blue Book, which was the, set up investigation into UFOs. So it wasn't it wasn't life imitating art. It was art imitating the actual life, right? People think like the gray aliens came from pop culture. No, it came from the original case files of Project Blue Book, which influenced the media.
Yeah.
So, like, I have so many more avenues that I'd love to explore, and I try.
Again, I'd love to.
Yeah.
I would love to just go on some more tangents.
Yeah,
because we have so many.
So many. The Charlie Kirk one, that is tangible. That one is really, really, really odd. I'll say that. I would love to, because that like falls into that category of like, did someone rewrite code and just like get rid of it and change it and discredit? And why was that moment so pivotal?
Yeah.
What was it about that moment? So where can people find you? Like where can people find you and keep up with what you're doing? And
well,
how can they get the book?
You can get the book on Amazon. It's Window Man, Will Camaren, and that'll tell you a bunch of stories, some really cool things that we didn't even talk about today. Also, you can look me up on TikTok. I'm at Papa Will's Reviews. I do some food reviews and things like that there. There's actually even a Window Man song. You can find that at Camstar Records.
Wait.
Yeah, it's copywritten. Yeah.
No. Will I get a copyright for playing it?
What do you mean? You can play it. It's copywritten. It's fine. I'll give you permission to use it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
if I use that as the outro song today, how do I find it?
It's at Camstar Music. No, excuse me, Camstar Records.
Okay.
And you can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Spotify, some different places like that.
I don't know if I'm gonna find it. Is that like a website?
No, it's you got to go on like YouTube, and then you can just look up Camstar Records, and you'll be able to find it.
Because now I wanna end the show with that.
That's awesome.
Camstar Records. Okay, is it the one that are
you seeing the one that looks like the book? It should look like this right here, the Window Man book.
Okay, let me see. Is this the right channel? I guess I should ask you. Let me show you.
Okay.
I'll cut this part out, but for anyone.
Oh yeah, that's Camstar Records. Yes, that's correct. That's the karaoke.
Okay, so it's somewhere in here.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it.
Let's see. Maybe type in Will Camaren and then spell my last name Camaren and Window Man, and then you should probably find it.
There you are. That's all right.
That's different. That's not the one. There's the song right there.
Is it playing? No, it's not playing.
Not yet. It's still doing a commercial. That's it.
Will, thank you. so much for coming on the show. I would love to have you back as a follow-up show, talk about some other things. Again, I like to keep it very conversational. So I know there's some things on your list that we probably didn't even get to today, but I do that on purpose so that we have a follow-up avenue to take. And there's so much more things that maybe I can present to you before, and then you can look at them, because I'd love to talk about cultures like Atlantis. Like, did they exist? You know, you know, how our ancestors, were they tapped into the same idea? That, you know, or were they clued in on the fact that this is how the world actually works, that you can rewrite code, and how they tried to tell to us.
Yeah, I would love it. Let's definitely do that.
So everyone that is watching, thank you so much. Everyone that is listening, make sure you rate and review the show on whatever podcast platform you are listening on. If you're on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe, all that jazz. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. You know, are we living in a simulation, or are we not? You know, and what do you think? Are aliens, you know, just fallen angels? I mean, that's a very poignant question, especially these days with Trump and all them wanting to declassify the UFO files. You start asking yourself why. So let me know what you guys think below, and we're gonna end it out with Window Man, the song.